Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to the journey back from domestic violence. I'm your girl, Author Erica. I hope y'all doing good on this Saturday morning, or Saturday evening for some of us. So, I have my good friend here on with me today. Her name is Miss Margaret. She's gonna tell her story, and y'all just be listening, and maybe it's something that you can take from her story. So, good evening, Miss Margaret. I hope all is well on your end. And I want to say thank you for taking time out your busy day to even allowing me to showcase your story or share your story with other people that may be sitting down or just getting out of the domestic violence relationship or even probably still doing it. So I just want to say thanks a lot for just taking time out your busy day.
Thank you so much, Miss Erica. I really appreciate this platform that you are giving people to share their stories. It's such an important topic, and we don't talk about it enough. You know, people are suffering alone, and they don't have to. They need to know that they are not alone, and there's plenty of us that have gone through this same type of situation, so they can know they can get out and get help too. So, my story. Grew up in Western Pennsylvania, right on the edge of Ohio. Grew up with a mother, a stepdad. We had 4 kids at the house. My dad was in Tennessee, so saw him. Um, I think I grew up feeling kind of self-conscious. I wasn't secure in myself. We didn't, growing up, we didn't. People don't talk a whole lot. They don't.
Right.
New, building self-esteem and affirmations and you can do it. I mean, I had that positive reinforcement as far as my education, get your education. And but to actually stop and think about where were those moments where my self-esteem, how I felt about myself
Right.
was really worked on. Um so I think I did have a lot of doubt about myself. I grew up feeling like I wasn't comfortable in my own body.
Okay.
Um, and that leads you down different paths, right?
Some of the wrong path.
Right. So my my main goal coming up was education, being financially stable, because those are the things that I really saw in my childhood that I felt like affected me. That's what drove me. I want to be able to take care of myself, take care of my family, because I saw the struggle coming up. And I really didn't pay attention to how hard it was to actually maintain a relationship. I just thought that was going to come easy. I just thought that was second nature. But my focus was going to school. I'm going to school. I'm going to school, and I want to be successful in my career. And I did. I went to school. I went to Bennett College, which is in Greensboro, North Carolina, historically Black college for women. Got my bachelor's in math there, and then after that, I went to UNC, University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and I got my master's of public health there. 2 months before, no, it was, I got my master's in 2006, and it was in 2004 that I met this guy. Um, and we got into a relationship kind of quick, but then he kind of like moved out there. He wasn't permanently in the area.
Okay.
Um, Kind of just left, and I'm like, okay, well.
Okay.
And then in 2005, he shows back up, and he's back to stay. We're talking, we're getting to know each other more, and we actually started living together in February 2006. So 2 months before I actually February, 2 or 3 months before I actually earned my master's degree, and started living together, and it immediately went bad. And
Wow.
when I saw red flags. I saw signs that maybe this was not
A good
going to
one.
be was
Mm-hmm.
good, but I ignored them. He gave
Like,
me that
oh,
position.
we do all. Mhm.
He comforted me when in areas that I was uncomfortable in. About myself, about my appearance, and those things didn't matter. Um, but it went The very next day, I mean, he moved in on like a Saturday. The very next day, we got into our first physical display of domestic violence.
Wow.
And I kind of told myself, well, that was, you know, um, alarming. And I told myself that, that was based off miscommunication, a misunderstanding, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
then, years go by, you like, there's a lot of
That wasn't a
misunderstanding.
misunderstanding. That was a red flag.
So yeah, that's doesn't work. We have to be able to, take these incidents and see them for what they are. So I was actually in a relationship with him off and on because I didn't grow up feeling like I didn't grow up in the kind of household where I would think that abuse is normal,
Right. Mm-hmm.
that I think that mistreatment is normal. So I immediately knew, at first it was like I said, a misunderstanding. But once it continued, I'm like, I
That
know
ain't
this
no
is
misunderstanding.
right. So I wasn't somebody that was in this relationship and trying to make it work or make it better. I was I stayed in a relationship because I didn't know how to end it safely. I didn't know, the exact. I didn't know the exact steps to take. So from 2006 to actually like probably 2015. 2015 was really like that end point. And all through there were many times that I left, many times. Um, and for some reason or another, I ended up back. And I had just recently we have three children together, and I had three boys, ages 13, 10, and 9. My youngest just turned 9. My middle will be 10 in August. I mean 11 in August. Um, and I had just, and I knew this, but I kind of buried it.
Right.
Just realized, not just realized, but just remembered how my youngest son was actually conceived during a no contact order. And that's kind of because throughout the years I have contacted police, I have had restraining orders,
Mm.
I have left and went to shelters, but I never really forced the no
I
contact.
take all. Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of times that's out of fear because if I force no contact and
Don't know
then
what he gonna do.
right, and that's
Mm-hmm.
what happened when he had the actual order from the judge to not contact me. I think it was for like 6 months to not contact me. And as soon as he left the court and got to a payphone, he called me. And I'm like,
You wasn't supposed to call me.
right, but and I was just reading something yesterday. They don't follow rules, they make their own rules.
Yeah, because
Um,
they in their mind they're right.
Right. And I love my son. And my son is actually my youngest son is actually part of the reason, the motivation to finally get out and stay out. So even though he was conceived in that period of time, I know that he you know, was sent to help me to end that relationship because
Relationship.
he definitely did. I know that's a lot of blank spaces in there. A lot of things happen. I mean, and I'm grateful for it not being the worst of stories. It was bad enough for me, but I know that it wasn't the worst of stories. I've definitely heard some really horrible stories, and I'm here and I'm alive and I can tell it. So, um, but yeah, there's a lot of details in there that I didn't necessarily touch on. But yeah, it was probably you know, when you have abuse, it leads to more abuse. So it doesn't just usually stop with one type of abuse.
Mm-hmm.
So
So
if
for
you're having
you, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say if you're having physical abuse, that kind of that kind of harms you in other ways and makes you detached from other things. So, that actually, creates other pathways to all types of abuse.
So I know you say y'all started off pretty fast, and y'all first incident was the next day. So what type of abuse started off? Was it mentally or straight physical? Because I know
Um,
it's different. It starts off in different ways and then gradually escalating.
I think that before we moved in, there were signs of some type of control. Like I remember going to an event for like a school, and I had left my phone in the car that I drove in. I drove with somebody that was at my school as a graduate when I was at graduate school, and we drove to my undergrad school. It was like a way to promote, the program. And I had ended up leaving my phone in that car. So I had to, make arrangements for me to go get my phone after I realized it was
Exactly.
missing. I remember there being like, a few messages from him, and they just kind of got like questionable. Like, hey, what are you going off for? And that was probably one of my biggest red flags that I didn't pay attention to. But as far as us moving in together, day two was physical. Like, and like it wasn't major, major, major physical. It wasn't. But it was definitely it was a smack, and it was definitely and it was while I was driving, so that even made it worse.
Right.
So because anything could have happened, and I think that's one of the things that I have taken away from that. It doesn't matter how seemingly small something might look, or compared to others, especially when you have there's consequences, and you don't know what the consequence, how big the consequence will
Mhm.
be of something that might seem minor.
Right.
you know I've had things that happen, and it's happening because we're arguing, or he's upset. I know that some of the stuff that has happened wasn't done purposely, but your anger is purpose.
Right.
You're
Mhm.
angry with a purpose. So if something accidentally happens while you're angry, then that all goes together, you
Right.
know.
It all ties together.
Right.
So, can you remember during the time you're in a relationship, and I know you said it was off and on, can you remember a time that the hitting was worse than before it started off? Can you remember a time where it was worse, and did you ever have to go to the hospital for it?
Um, our relationship was off and on. It was mainly, I would say, it was mostly on. It was only really off when I was, trying to get out, when I was running away. Basically, I left the house plenty, plenty of times. Um, I have had to go to the hospital. I remember one time, like, he like hit me in my back, like my lower back, and I ended up having some, what they call a contusion. It was just really, really painful. Um, and it's just crazy because, of course, they're always, well, I can't say always, but apologetic, and, oh, I didn't mean that. I'm sorry,
I love
uh,
you.
but you did it. Yeah, yeah. And there have been there's so much that I haven't shared with people, and it's so difficult,
Safety.
especially
Mm-hmm.
because I still have a relationship with them. We have 3 kids. My family, you know, they know stuff went on. They don't know the details, but um, there was. I'll just say that, like I was talking about the accidents that happen.
Yes.
You know, it's not something I know that it's not something that he intentionally did, but there was an incident where I wanted him to leave, and I didn't want to come into the house while he was there. And he, and this is actually the incident that led to the no contact order.
Okay.
He actually he pulled me into the house. Um, And as he was having me, like he pulled me, because I had like ran across the street, and then he pulled me over back across the street, and then he was having me go into the house because, you know, he was behind me, and he was having me going, like pushing me into the house in a way, and I fell because I was still resisting. I
Mm-hmm.
fell the threshold of the house and hit the ground, and then he fell on top of me. And the impact of the ground and him falling on top of me did cause a fracture in my jaw.
Wow.
And I haven't told anybody that, people who I work with, they saw me because, I mean, I didn't tell them what happened, but, most people,
They
you
kind of
know,
have a sense. Where we
right.
may think they don't have a sense of what's going on, they tend to have a sense what's going on. So going to the hospital, and in that moment when you at the hospital, what are your thoughts on, what's going on? Did you want to tell a nurse, or did you want to tell a doctor what was going on? Or it was that thought where I'm not gonna say nothing because he's here?
You know, I think that was the second is probably what was going on because he was there, and I know that at that point I had not had any, like I didn't contact the police at that point. It wasn't, I had to have my jaw wired, for it to heal. And it wasn't until like almost a week before I was due to take the wiring out that I actually reported it. And I had those on for about 6 or 7 weeks. Um, so about the time we actually, went to court and thing, they were out. But yeah, it took a long time, and that was, a really, really, I wouldn't wish that on anybody. That was a horrible experience. And I don't even think that when it first happened, maybe he just didn't want to think it was serious.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
because of, something real serious happens, and now I have to go to the hospital. But yeah, it was like I didn't even go to the hospital right away. You know, and when I was really, really, really devastated to know the severity of it. Embarrassed to, have to have my jaw wired, and still have to work. Like I had to work, you know.
Even being scared of being asked those questions from other people of what happened, and sitting down trying to figure out a story, and
Mhm.
all that's a process. And first of all is the accepting part.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
So,
that was tough.
I know, I can only imagine, even just going to the hospital, you have to sit down and really think, because you're thinking about, okay, what am I going to say? And if I say one thing, it's going to trigger him off to doing something else, even when we get out this hospital. So it's always that thought of, I got to be conscious of what I say because I don't want to trigger him.
Yeah, yeah. And I probably, even one of that whole experience was tough, but one of the hardest things for me to deal with is the fact that I had missed seeing my sister during that period of time. She was living in New York at the time, and she had came down to visit someone, and I, was like, I can't see you right now,
Right.
and I never explained to her why I couldn't see her, and it was just really hurtful because it's not like I can, have the chance to see her, whenever I choose to, but to feel like I have to turn her away and not see her because of, being in that situation, and I didn't want her seeing me that way. I hadn't told anybody in the family, so yeah, that was hurtful,
It is.
and
I can only imagine, because that's family. So let's talk about family. Did you ever get to the point of telling your family that I'm in this situation? or you just kind of let it go on and they figure it out as they go?
I mean, I don't even know if I ever directly told them,
Okay.
but they knew. I definitely, I probably said things like, like I don't know if I said this to my family. I know I said this to a old friend that I felt like I was, stuck or trapped or, things like that. But they knew.
Okay.
Um, they weren't going to, they weren't going to try to force me to do anything because, how that works. You got to be ready to do what you need to do. Um, they've always been supportive. And they actually, the relationship did cause some fallout,
Hmm.
like with my family, um, specifically my sister. I probably didn't speak to my sister for maybe a year or so, maybe a little longer. And not because I was upset with her with anything, but because I didn't like how he would treat my family. And if something would happen that caused us to fall out, I would just let it happen because now I can just, keep him kind of away from them. But it was some time because I've lost jobs with this relationship, getting up fighting, arguing. He don't want me to go to work because there's probably somebody there that he think I'm gonna be involved with, all those
Hmm.
kids.
It's the control thing.
So I've lost about two two jobs specifically because of being late and missing work. Um, and the second job that I lost, it was like I just felt defeated. So I just was like,
Oh
"What's the point?"
well. Mm-hmm.
Right. So in between one of my jobs and money got tight and there was financial struggle, he wanted me to ask my sister for a loan, and she was like, well, I have to talk to my husband,
Right.
that's
Mm-hmm.
and he kind of got defensive, like he wanted me to ask. First of all, I didn't want to ask because
My sister.
why,
Mhm.
especially if here, if we need money, you need to go figure that out.
Because you the man of the relationship.
Right, right. So I was already upset because he was asking me to ask for money. And then, when she's like, I have to talk to my husband about it, then he gets, on the phone and he starts saying all kind of stuff. And then she puts her husband on the phone and now they're saying stuff together and it just was like real ugly real fast. And again, embarrassment. So we probably didn't talk for a little while, and it was never ever because I felt any kind of anger or anything negative towards her. It was just I never, and who likes to be in an embarrassing
Not with my
situation.
family anyway.
Right, right.
Mhm.
So, there, yeah, that's one example of just, you know, the distance that was created. And it was never like you can't talk to your family, it was just like the actions or, the situation that we were in, made me not want to have them involved.
Right. And that's understandable because sometimes we try to shield our family on what's going on because we know how family could get, and I already know how he is, and I know if my family says something, that's gonna trigger a whole situation, and that's something that I have to deal with when we go home or when they
Right.
leave or what have you. So during this time of the backwards and forward and being in a relationship with him, what moment or what was an incident that you can recall that prompt you that it's time for me to make a move? It's time for me to exit this relationship for good.
Okay. So, and this is really why I say that, my son really helped me see that whatever it takes has to happen. My youngest son, who is now 9, was actually injured when he was about almost 3 years old. Um, and again, we were all in the house together. My oldest boys were downstairs finishing up some lunch.
Right.
My youngest went upstairs, and his dad was putting him down for a nap, and something happened. I wasn't. is there. He told me what happened, and I tend to believe him. He said, um, he said that he was, playing with my son, and he does this thing where he'll like swing them and like throw them onto the bed or throw
Right.
them onto couch or something like that.
Yeah.
And he said that he was doing it, and this wasn't until after the incident because when it happened, I didn't want to hear anything.
Right.
But he said that he does this. He'll do it twice, and then the third time it's like, okay, now lay down and go to sleep. Well, he said he had did it twice. He had kind of tossed them into bed, and then he said the third time when he did it, he had backed up and stepped on a block that was on the floor, and his knee gave out. And so he said that when he went to toss our son, he lost grip of him because his knee started
About his
going out.
hand.
And instead of him, letting him fall on the floor, he caught him and tried to throw him into the bed anyway while he was, trying to regain balance. Well, when he threw him in the bed that last time, his leg hit he was in a crib still. His leg hit the bar on the crib, and his leg was fractured. So, and like I said, I don't remember him being angry. He wasn't upset that day. Um, I didn't hear any yelling. I didn't hear anything like that. I didn't hear anything that would make me think that he
He did
did
it on
something.
purpose.
But again, because of my own experiences with him, that's what took over. My
Right.
own
It kicked in.
what I've dealt with him took over. So he was actually arrested because of that incident, and he was he was in jail for some months. I think that was in January of 2015, and he was in jail until like maybe November of 2015. Came out on probation, but the thing that actually, after that injury to my son, 3 weeks later, my dad died. And that was, unexpected. It was a under the influence, a driver under the influence hit him and his best friend in the car, and they both died. So to have that
Today.
happen so close together, and now I'm at my dad's funeral with my son that's in the cast, you know, and now I have to think about what would my dad think if I actually let him back into my life in this
Right.
capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, well, because my dad had actually visited for the probably the first time in a long time, and for the first time ever by himself, the year before he had died. He visited twice, and they had conversations because my youngest son was actually in the hospital then to get his adenoids and his tonsils removed. So they had some time alone to just talk. My dad and my son's father, and he's like, well, your dad, he wants us to get married, and 'cause my dad was that was his thing. He wanted marriage for me. He wanted me to, but I'm like, but my dad
Exactly.
don't know anything. I'm almost I'm certain, not even almost. I'm certain if my dad knew all the details in this relationship, he would never
He will
ask
not
me
say that. Definitely.
to marry you. So I had to, I thought about those two incidents, and as close as they were together, that was really like the foundation of, enough is enough.
Gotta make a move.
Yeah.
So did you execute it when you came up to figure, okay, this is the time I need to move? Did you come up with a plan, or did you have a plan already and plan how you was gonna exit?
Well, he was, he was out. He was incarcerated for that period of time.
Okay.
So, that made life a little easier. Um, And when he did get out, I refused to allow him to use my address as, where he would be at
Correct.
for.
Well, he could do parole, yeah.
So I'm like, no, no, I'm not signing up for that. So, it kind of forced him to find his own way. Um, and I'm gonna be honest, he's returned. He came back to the house between places to live, probably about 3 months. Like between 2015 and I think it might have been like 2018, 2019. It might have been 2018. And he's like, I just need somewhere to stay. And I'm like, it's so hard. It's just hard to say no sometimes, even though no matter how much you want to say no, and even now it's still something I have to work on, those boundaries. But he came back and he slept downstairs. We didn't have, and we weren't romantic. It wasn't no, we were trying to get back in a relationship with one another. He slept downstairs, but it was still like, okay, this is no, this can't
And
happen.
it was probably awkward for you.
Yeah, I mean, and when you're in an environment that you're used to, and you've had, because I've been in this house in my same house for 13 years, almost 14 years now. Because my son, it was right before my son was born, a month before my son was born, we moved here. So I think that when you get into an environment that you're just used to, and you know how you used to act in that environment, you
Hmm.
get, and it gives you permission to kind of go back to those ways. And and yeah, it was the comfortable that I've probably been since him leaving.
I mean, sometimes we have to make changes. Sometimes we have to say enough is enough, and I'm gonna make this change for me and mine. Me and my
Yep.
kids. So as I know you have kids, like you say, y'all had kids. So right now, do you deal with any kind of protection order against him with the kids? Do he have visiting rights, or if he do have visiting rights, is it hard to execute those visiting rights with him? Do he make it hard, or do he just do follow the rules on visitation?
um we don't have any formal visitation. We've never gone to courts to get formal visitation rights. um my sons are here with me, and he, for the most part, has been respectful over the last years. We interact. Um, we actually probably interact too much. Um, we see each other with the family. We watch movies together sometimes. We have dinner together sometimes, and it's all like family based type interactions, absolutely nothing romantic. And he has seemed to
Okay.
change. He's definitely more spiritual, and he is Muslim. And I actually learned about Islam because he was Muslim, and I knew that he wasn't acting like it.
Okay.
Um, so I kind of I learned a lot about Islam to challenge his ways in a way. Um, and I think that once he was out the relationship, he really had that so much time to just sit with himself.
And let it all sink in.
He never, like, he was out the house when he was very young. He actually grew up witnessing domestic violence abuse in his own home.
So that's
And
how it come from.
mhm. um, so, but I think that when I think that I challenged him more than probably a lot of people have, to kind of reflect on himself and on the relationships that he has had. Um, and so he is definitely a better person now. I still, wouldn't want to be in a relationship with him, even though
Right.
even though that he has really, I really do believe that he has changed. But at the same time, I have to be weary and say, sometimes people change to get what they want,
Yep.
and
To
it's,
manipulate
it's
the situation.
right. It's not necessarily permanent, and I don't want that to be the case. I want it to be permanent. I want it to be a permanent change for him. Um,
For him.
we all deserve to be happy, and and people who are abusive people, they're far from happy. They're far from happy. Then
They
a lot
are,
of times,
because 9 out of 10 they done seen some stuff in their life. I always think about, and I'm always the person that thinks out the box. I'm always like, okay, we talk about the victim all the time. Do we have anything set up for the abuser? Because at some point, I know, and I'm not going to say all of them, but I'm going to say more than half of them have seen some type of abuse or been abused themselves. So they feel like I'm going to inflict this pain on somebody else. And I mean, do we have anything set up more for the abusers? Because the abusers sometimes they need help too. And jail can do it, but sometimes they need extensive help because of what they seen, what they could have been through. We all go through things in life and we just never know how that affect us. Especially with abusers. I don't believe, and I'm a Gemini and I kind of look the good in everybody. I don't believe one get up and say, I'm just gonna go beat the crap out of somebody.
right.
It's something that had to lead you to say, I'm gonna go beat the crap out of this person. I don't believe nobody get up and think like that.
Yeah, and I agree. I think that most people who are abusers were abused. They were, and even if they weren't actually the target of the abuse, they witnessed abuse, which
Right,
is still, um, abusive. You
right.
know, and I think that when you, especially as a child, when you're witnessing abuse, you either decide that you're not going to be abused and become the abuser, or you continue that pattern of being abused as you grow and get into different relationships.
Right. So,
Um, so I think that it can go definitely either way when you witness things as you're growing up.
and
Um,
we all have choices in life. We all make choices in life. We either gonna not or we gonna do. So we all have a choice when it comes down to it. But I feel or believe that they still need help too at some point. Yeah, they need to go to jail, but I feel like it should be some kind of counseling, rehabilitation, or something for them too.
Supposed to be rehabilitation. Like that's the thing for me. I honestly believe that the prison system could be doing so much better to actually help,
The
versus just
situation.
like animals and make them more upset when they get out.
That makes them
So I
more
think
angry.
right. So that doesn't help anybody. Um, so
So as far as the kids now, and yourself, where are y'all today? What's life looking like now for you and the kids, and especially, are you looking to date, or you just right now just trying to figure it all out to get yourself back together?
it's definitely a process. It's definitely a
It
process.
is.
Um, I'm working and I'm tired of it. I tell everybody, okay, I shouldn't say that. I appreciate my job. I do.
Right.
But so much more that I want to be more present with my sons because they need more hands-on attention, especially my youngest son. My youngest has autism. I'm not sure if I shared that, but my youngest son is autistic, and
Okay.
my did witness a lot. And my middle son, is just like, give me attention. He has that true I'm the middle child, and
Syndrome. Yeah, the middle child has that middle child syndrome.
yeah, absolutely. So I really am. When I realized when my son was diagnosed with uh, autism, I had decided to move on this phrase that I actually said when I was my first when I first started in this um, domestic violence relationship. I had said, "I'm not mad, I'm motivated," and it was just something I said that I wanted to be able to use to say, regardless of the negative that's happened, regardless of the obstacles, I'm going to use whatever I can get out of that as motivation for something bigger. So when he was diagnosed, I went ahead and actually put in the paperwork to get that phrase trademark, not mad,
Right.
motivated.
Baby.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then that following year, got the paperwork for starting the business. Had no idea what the business was going to look like, so it just started off like selling shirts. And then this past year, just been kind of reflecting and trying to figure out, what it is that I really want to do with the business. And I decided that my one of my biggest passions is building bridges, building connections, connecting with one another, building community. I started playing around with like greeting cards, but
Mm-hmm.
then I actually decided that I wanted to create affirmation cards for women who have experienced domestic violence abuse, from that point of view. And one of the reasons that I wanted to do that is because, having having community and having connections to other is great and is needed. But our first connection has to be, with ourselves, with our creator, our yeah. So I wanted to do something that would first provoke self reflection, and then maybe move on to something that would provoke interactions with others. But having that time with self is so important, especially um, when you're healing from domestic violence. Because when you don't take that time with yourself, you're a whole different person when you leave that situation. I mean, you can't be the same person after that.
You're
So
so broken when you leaving that. You're so broken, and you gotta put yourself together like a puzzle piece again.
and when you don't, you find yourselves back in those same type of situations. So
Exactly.
really important to just take that time to be with yourself and to build a support system. I'm not worried about dating. Eventually it might be nice uh, to have someone, a companion. Um, but right now I'm working on myself. I'm working on building something for my family. I'm working on being more present for my sons. So
And that's
um,
important.
that's where I'm at right now. Just just building something that I can allow myself a little bit more freedom. Um, that's my goal, to find freedom from my 9 to 5, so I can enjoy life a little bit more.
And that's what we need, like that freedom just to have for ourselves and to, like you said, we when you leave in a domestic violence relationship, you're broken. So you have to put those puzzle pieces back together, because if we don't, we're gonna end up doing the same thing, and we're not trying to leave one situation to go back to another situation. And so what the business right now, where is the business?
Where?
I said, where is your business at now? Or you say you're doing them affirmation cards.
Yeah.
So are you working to get them out, or how you gonna get them?
I'm making them myself. So
Okay.
I bought a printer recently. So I print them off myself. I cut them myself.
Okay.
I'm making boxes. So here's one of them that I made. So I actually made this box, and I'm like all impressed.
I love that box. It's beautiful.
And it's actually the same paper that I use for my cards. I'm low on my phone is low.
Okay.
Here's the card, and I made them really, really big. Like,
I like that. My actions only. Okay, I like that. My actions only need to be please. Yes, need to please God. Yes, I love that. So before we lose battery and before we get out of here, do you have any advice or something motivated to share with a lady or a guy? Because we have guys going through domestic violence that they may be listening or in a situation or trying to get out. Do you have something motivating for them?
so my first piece of advice is to people who are not in the situation, who are not in domestic violence, and to, pay attention to those those red flags. Pay attention to those feelings that you have that you can't explain sometimes, and to have standards. It is perfectly fine to have standards for the people that anybody in your life, really. Anybody. It doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. It can be your own, family.
Right.
Have standards in the way that you want them to be, in your life. And if they're not reaching, if they're breaking those boundaries, then you have to figure out where to, how much access they're going to have. Another thing is you want to make sure that whoever you're getting involved with can take care of themselves, you know, because people get stuck in relationships because one person is depending on the other. When two people come into a relationship and they both have the means to take care of themselves, it's not saying I'm going to be with somebody for money, but if we happen to go our separate ways, we both can deal with it, and I'm not going to have to feel any kind of way because you can take care of yourself. As far as people who are in domestic violence, I would say that 99% of the time it will not get better, it will not change, and it will get worse. So if you question whether or not you should be in that relationship, if you question whether or not you are being abused, you are, and you need to get out. And I know that it's hard, and it can be very dangerous. It can be more dangerous than being in the relationship with, and that's a hard pill to swallow right there. Um, but really, you have to really just trust. I've had tremendous faith all my life, and I just know that I was not put on this earth to be miserable, and I am not going to sentence myself to a lifetime of misery because I don't know, or I'm just not sure. Don't sentence yourself to misery. If you know that you're being mistreated, get out, get out. Whatever resources that you have access to, use them. And one of the main reasons that I wanted to make these cards is because it's so easy to get back in once you left. I've left many times. They say the average person leaves abuse like 7 times, and I know that I've left more than 7 times in that one relationship. But the main reason I wanted to make the cards is because I wanted to kind of get in the ear of someone who may have just left and tell them that's where they're supposed to be. You're moving on the right path. They
Right.
are you experienced is real. It's easy for someone to kind of, oh, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad, was it? No, it was really that bad.
Right.
And you have know that it was really that bad so that you remember not to go back to it. So that was really my main purpose is just to have affirm affirm affirmations. I wanted to affirm the voice of the women who have experienced domestic violence abuse, and yes, men experience it too. But this was just specifically from my own viewpoint. So
Right.
um, those words of encouragement to say, what, I'm worth way more than that situation ever told me I was.
Right. So I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your story and allowing me to showcase and platform on my platform. So I just want to say thanks again, and I hope everyone that's listening, you don't have to stay. You can leave. But make sure it's safely and make sure you get some help in between all of the leaving. So take care. Know that we love you. You're not alone. We're here. We're going to get through all of this together. So I'm your girl, Author Erica. Thanks for tuning in to the Journey Back from Domestic Violence. And I want to say thanks, Miss Margaret, again for allowing me to share your story.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Too. Bye.